Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I didn't expect that night to end like it did. I knew Mia had been distant lately, but I never thought she would just vanish. I watched the clock tick past midnight, the faint glow from the living room casting long shadows across our kitchen. And for the first time in 15 years, I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in a long time: worry. I tried calling her, texting, even pinging her location, but my phone stayed stubbornly silent. It wasn't like her to just disappear. By 1 a.m., I was pacing the living room, every familiar corner of our home suddenly feeling foreign. The soft hum of the refrigerator, the ticking of the clock, even the way the moonlight hit the walls. It all screamed absence. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe she's just out with friends. Maybe something urgent came up. Maybe she needed space. But the rational thoughts barely scratched the raw knot of unease in my chest. Liam, that's me, I told myself. I had always prided myself on being steady, calm under pressure, the guy who held it together. Yet tonight, even I couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted irrevocably. I sat on the couch, staring at the muted television, its flickering light reflecting my restless thoughts. I remembered the small arguments we'd had over the past months. Mia's constant checking of her phone, her abrupt tone when I tried to connect, the way she seemed miles away even when she sat across from me at the dinner table. I thought I understood the rhythm of our marriage, the ebb and flow of familiarity, of comfort, even boredom. But that night, I realized I had been ignoring signs, pretending silence was just quiet, not absence. By the early hours, exhaustion began to claw at me. I finally crawled into bed, hoping sleep might numb the anxiety. Couldn't. Every time my eyes shut, I imagined her in another place, smiling at someone else, while I lay here, waiting for a presence that might never return. The morning arrived heavy and gray. The sun struggled through thick clouds, casting a pale light across our bedroom. My phone buzzed. I froze, heart hammering, unsure if I wanted to pick it up. The notification read, "Liam, we need to talk. I can't do this anymore." My hands shook as I opened the message. I knew, in that instant, that whatever was coming wasn't just about a bad night or a fleeting argument. It was deeper. I read her words over and over, each time feeling my stomach sink lower. Mia had never spoken like this. She had never broken our pattern without warning. And yet, here it was, simple, cold, devastating. A confession hidden between sentences. A truth I had been too blind to see until now. I replayed our past week in my mind. Every laugh, every dinner, every small gesture that now felt hollow. Her laughter had become polite rather than joyous, her glances brief instead of warm. I had attributed it to stress, work pressure, the chaos of daily life. But now I saw the cracks in the foundation I had spent years believing were solid. I remember my first thought. How could she do this? After everything? Not the fiery anger movies always show, but the quiet, creeping disbelief that makes you feel like you're moving underwater. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, trying to make sense of the betrayal, the sudden vacuum where trust and familiarity had lived. Then came the memories of our early days. Mia, bright-eyed and full of life, always finding joy in the smallest moments. I remembered the weekend trips, the late-night drives with no destination, the whispered promises in the dark. And I realized something harsh but undeniable. Relationships change, sometimes imperceptibly, until one day, the person you knew becomes someone else entirely. My phone buzzed again. Another message, shorter this time. "I've been seeing someone else." I felt it hit me in layers. Shock first, disbelief, then a dull, sinking sorrow. I could see the future now, one I hadn't wanted to imagine. Endless questions, endless nights wondering, endless reminders of the love I thought we had. My mind raced. Why didn't I see this coming? What did I miss? And yet, even as the ache settled in my chest, a part of me noticed the clarity in her words. There was no ambiguity, no excuses, no half-truths. It was simple, brutal honesty. That clarity stung, but it also awakened something I hadn't felt in years. a sense of reality, unfiltered and raw. I didn't move for a long while, letting the silence settle around me. The room felt smaller, the shadows longer, every familiar object a reminder of what had been. I thought about confrontation, anger, shouting, but none of it seemed necessary. Mia had spoken her truth. I had to face mine. And the first step, painfully, would be understanding how to move forward from the person I thought I knew to the woman she had become, and to the man I still wanted to be. I sat there, staring at the screen, feeling the words weigh heavier than any physical object I'd ever held. Mia had made her choice, and there was no turning back. I could feel a strange mix of anger and sorrow, but beneath it all, a small, steady current of clarity began to emerge. I realized I had two options: lose myself in bitterness or face the reality of what was happening and reclaim control over my life. I decided on the latter. I didn't immediately respond. I didn't send a flurry of questions or demands. I sat quietly, letting the magnitude of her confession settle. Then I typed a single message: I understand. We'll talk when necessary. Take care. It was calm, composed, deliberate. No pleading. No desperate attempts to salvage what she had already discarded. It was the first act of self-respect I had taken in weeks, maybe months. And as soon as I hit send, I felt a subtle shift, a fraction of the weight lifting from my chest. The following days were a blur. I went to work, spent long hours staring at spreadsheets and emails, all while my mind replayed the last 15 years of our marriage. Every anniversary, every birthday, every ordinary Tuesday now felt like a mosaic of choices, memories, and missteps. I realized that even though her actions had blindsided me, the cracks had existed for a long time. And maybe I had ignored them because I didn't want to confront the truth. People can change, and sometimes change doesn't include you. By the third day, Mia's messages stopped coming. There was a silence I hadn't experienced before, one that wasn't filled with warmth, familiarity, or even the mundane arguments that had once punctuated our lives. This was emptiness, and it forced me to confront myself. I walked through the apartment, touching familiar surfaces. The couch we had bought together, the kitchen table where we had shared countless dinners, the framed photos that now felt like artifacts of someone else's life. It was painful, but it was also enlightening. I realized that I had been living in a version of our marriage that existed only in memory, while the present had quietly slipped away. And in that realization, there was an odd kind of liberation. I didn't need her apology, her reasoning, or even her presence to reclaim my own sense of self. A week later, I found myself standing by the window, looking at the city skyline. The streets below buzzed with life, completely indifferent to my personal chaos. And for the first time in days, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't felt in a long while: possibility. I could start again, not from scratch, but from the understanding that my worth didn't depend on someone else's choices. I could love myself, rebuild boundaries, and embrace a future unshackled from the shadow of betrayal. Then came an unexpected message from her friend, Lily. She reached out cautiously, almost as if testing the waters. "Are you okay? I don't know all the details, but Mia..." I paused. I could have unleashed months of pain, but I chose calm. "I'm managing. Thank you for checking in." And that was it. No gossip, no confrontation. Just acknowledgement of reality. The weeks after were strange, quiet, and reflective. I reconnected with old friends, took up running again, and even found joy in small routines that had faded over time. I didn't hate Mia, and I didn't obsess over what she had done. I accepted it as a chapter, not the end of the story. The betrayal had been sharp, yes, but it had also acted as a lens, focusing my attention on my own life and priorities. Looking back, I can see how subtle the shifts had been. A flippant tone here, a missed call there, laughter that felt absent. It's easy to overlook these things when life is busy. And maybe that's the harsh lesson. Love isn't always lost in a moment of violence or drama. It often disappears quietly, in silence, until the absence becomes undeniable. I'm Liam, and I lived through a betrayal I never expected. But I survived it, not because of luck or clever maneuvers, but because I chose clarity over chaos, respect over resentment, and myself over bitterness. And in that survival, I discovered something far more powerful than anger or revenge. Freedom. Sometimes, love doesn't end with fireworks or shouting. Sometimes, it ends with a quiet truth, a simple message, and the courage to let go. And as I stand here today, reflecting on what was, I know one thing for certain. My life continues, richer in lessons, stronger in boundaries, and open to the possibility of new beginnings. Because betrayal isn't just about someone else's choices. It's about how you respond, how you reclaim your life, and how you refuse to let someone else's actions define your worth. And in that, I found peace.